but it's nothing without relating it to context and the connections that I make. So those are my thoughts.
Okay. Can't wait to see what you're going to come up with for your next career. But anyway, yeah, yes.
Well, you brought up
discussion tonight.
You brought up Twitter, and I think this is a conversation that some of us that have been on Twitter throughout this conference have been having with one another, and it had been brought up on Twitter, which was, from your perspective, of how many years have you been in this field?
60.
I started in 1953. He started in 50.
So, okay, considerable amount of years.
57.
Thank you. Do the math real quick. From your perspective, what I'd like to know, and maybe some people and we have some probably tweeting right now. I think Laura is. What we'd like to know is your perspective on these new collaborative technologies and how it could augment what you've seen over the many years, or potential detriment in some fashion or another. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. So.
Well, Edie is about to go first, so I'm going to speak up.
Either one.
Well, I'm trying to learn how to do New Jersey stuff. And, my answer is we can do it all. I don't Twitter. I could. I'm signed up. I don't want a larger network. I'm overwhelmed with commitments that I've already made, and I can't keep up. So I don't want to broaden the thing. I feel the same way about Plaxo. I'm on Facebook, but I can't remember my password and several other things. But the context I work with is everybody's there, so I better understand it. That's the least I can do, and that is the future. That's what created the global.
It's the same principle, just a different way of getting there. I mean, it's a different kind of support system. And if no change ever takes place in anyone's lives or in any organization until we have a critical support system to make that change happen. So our support systems were sort of built individually, one by one by one. This is a different way of building your support system. If you can almost take all the things that we think are critical as the underpinnings to what we do, and just put them into a different context. If you want to talk about context, and that's what I see LinkedIn and Twitter and all of those to be. They're a different communication pattern that's suiting this time and this speed of time differently than ours was.
Incidentally, Edie is in this field because when she went to Bethel, everything was sociometrics and Merino, and they did a sociometric of the people in the population, and Edie came out to be the star.
She was at the center.
Yeah,
Exactly.
this was at the
and
first
that's why
MT.
Lee Bradford invited her back.
Exactly.
In
Because he had grave concerns about my arriving on that campus. They didn't have people my age because I was just out of college, and I was just actually in college. Doug sent me, and they didn't have women running around there. So Doug said, just take her because I'm telling you, you'll be glad you made this choice. And so I was running around blithely having the time of my life because what the heck did I know? And all these guys that were running this program were from big universities. They were all the professors, all introverts. And here I am, this extrovert, flitting around, in seventh heaven. I thought I'd gone to Brigadoon. I mean, because all it was groups. And I thought, oh my God, this is group after group after group after group, and everybody's talking about groups, and I was having the time of my life. I got a call from Lee about 3 weeks after the program saying, could you come back next year? I said, sure. I mean, what the hell? And he said, you turned out, I mean, research was everything at Bethel. There were more researchers than there were participants. And he said, because the biggest research we were doing was a sociometric thing, and you're the star. I didn't know what he was talking about, but I said, great, that's fine with me. I mean, it was so interesting how one thing sort of led to another. But recently what I've been doing is looking for some of the underlying principles that really reinforce what Lewin said, that behavior is a function of people and their environment. Well, what do we have to know about ourselves and the environment in order to be effective? So I've been taking some of those disciplines and principles from the OD field and getting them built into the way we can be more effective is making the impact that we want and carrying through the intent. And we were talking the other day, I had 2 stories about that just fascinate me. All these years I've been listening as I've worked at NASA and I've worked other places. This is easy to understand. It's not brain surgery and it's not rocket science, right? In my group, I was with a Walter Reed Bethesda Naval group of leaders. In my group was one of the outstanding brain surgeons in the country.
She's talking about the merger of Walter Reed
yeah,
Hospital
and we're
and
doing
Bethesda
and I'm
Naval
doing,
Hospital.
And I'm getting them to
a
use
slight
themselves
collision
more
of our
effectively
armed forces.
because their idea is to kill each other rather than integrate. And so we had this as our leadership. And we were working with their leaders, getting them to understand, don't make assumptions about each other, look for sound and current data. How often have we heard that? And that is the damn hardest thing for them to do, because they were sure they knew what the other guys did wrong, until the other guy said, we never did that in our lives, you know? I said, wow, sound and current data. But anyway, the brain surgeon is trying to explain something to this group about the integration process, and he suddenly stops and he says, you know, what you do is the most complicated thing I've ever seen. This is nothing. Brain surgery is nothing.
Really?
Nothing at all. And I thought, I lived long enough. I'd say, here, out of the mouths of this, and he said, when I go into the operating room, everybody knows what their role is, and they are clear about it, and they're going to stay in role. The brain is frozen, and I'm in charge. And he said, this way, I open my mouth and I say something, and the next thing I've got 45 different variables to deal with, and I don't even know where to move next. And I said it was the best thing I ever heard in my life, absolutely the best thing. The other thing was, I was explaining...
Now, this will be your last one, because I got something I want to say.
The next thing I was saying, 48 years. I've ignored that. So the next thing I was saying was I was working about, talking about something that was equally interesting, I think, to the group at the time. And it was about the whole notion of feedback, which I think has gotten such a bad rap, when it could be our best sound and current data we could possibly have. If instead of waiting for somebody to add up all this and that and the other thing and then give it to us 6 months too late, if we just started asking for it, you know? How did that go? You get the ideas. I mean, it was a simple process, but turning it upside down, in other words. Not give it, ask for it. So I was doing this, and I've been doing this with this group for a while. All of a sudden, this woman next to me, at an octave about 6 times up here, comes out and says, oh my God, this is a cosmic shift. And I said, that's it.
Wow.
It is a cosmic shift. And I think that's what we've always had and what we've been doing. We've always gone into places and said, if you want to do democracy, do it. You're not doing it. We need a cosmic shift. And when I listened, I thought to myself today, what do we mean by that? It isn't terribly complicated. It isn't brain surgery. It is terribly complicated because the things we're asking for, we're simply not used to. We've become a blame society. We've forgotten. We have to take back the control of our choices and be a choiceful society. Recognize, as Lewin said, our impact, our behavior as a person in their environment. And all we have to begin to do is be more intentional and more deliberate and more conscious of what we're doing in our environment. What impact do we want to make? But that's all the time. And I think that would begin to make an enormous, and a cosmic shift. I love it. I want to write a book because I have a title now. That's all you need, it's a good title. Okay, go.
Got the formula? B equals
Is a function of
F paren P comma E. Behavior is a function of person and environment. OD is built on the principle, don't try to change the person. Change the setting they're in. The behavior will change because a different facet of that person will come out. And that will, in appreciative inquiry terms, would allow the growth to occur that naturally.